Hi, my name is Carmen Reyes. My topic is how sentences involving race in the past affected the sentence of O.J. Simpson case. I choose this topic because it's involving race most of the part. The when I saw a series called The Case of O.J. Simpson on Netflix, it was very interesting how the lawyers managed to use race as an ally instead of how it's been used around the history of the United States. And I compared that case to previous cases that were even more lighter for saying that in that way, that it wasn't a double murder or any case like that. But in this case, they use race as an asset to protect themselves. Um, it, the components of the topic will be like on my paper. I establish first how a race is a matter, in fact, in the United States. It's also how race involves it every day in the U.S. and how people are affected by it, by being of different races. I can say for myself because I'm Latino. People know that are not from here. They tend to be aware of that because of my accent and that kind of stuff. And it should be it should be equal for everyone. Doesn't matter where you're from. And that's the key points I said on the paper, that it was how race influenced decisions in the United States, and how cases in the past, like people where a sentence to the death penalty involve race, where more blacks into the percentage of how many blacks were in the case of murder and homicide were sentenced to murder and homicide. I also put statistics on the paper saying like even if whites have more percentage in the United States, there are more blacks on the homicide side. And even though you can say also, I said also that if you are black, there's a more percentage for you to be sentenced to the death penalty than for a white. Is impressive how statistics can help you see and manage the point of view on how race actually affects crime nowadays. I set up the case of Gregg versus Georgia, Foreman versus Georgia. Is that's the main point of the middle of the paper, to establish a background on how race is affecting the crime and the punishment here in the United States. And then I said the case of O.J. Simpson, that also being an NFL superstar, being by people surrounding him, having a lot of money, influences into the decisions into a court. Also, they said that the case was a race matter because there was a tumor of two white persons, his ex-wife and the person that she was with. They both were white, and O.J. Simpson was black. Even though all the evidence pointed that O.J. Simpson actually committed the crimes, when they found the gloves, when they found the blood, everything that happened on that time pointed that O.J. Simpson was actually the person who murdered these two. But then the lawyers set up that actually it was a race crime, that they were only putting O.J. Simpson there because he was black. The police officer in that time said that he cannot believe that a black man was with a white woman, that he cannot tolerate that at all. And it was impressive how race was actually a matter in this case, that they use it as an asset instead of actually looking for the person that murdered these two characters, right? So it was very interesting to see both point of views, the right and the wrong of using race as something. I also compared these two cases that are very interesting for me to know and to see how race can actually change the perspective of a punishment, right? And race shouldn't be an issue into these cases, because you should be looking for actually the person who committed this crime instead of looking for colors. You just were looking and punish people only for what they did instead of just punish them because of their skin. Um, what I have learned is that the United States is very divided, even though this issue was abolished years ago. It's very different to how it is in Venezuela. Venezuela is a country in which I believe that racism doesn't exist. Racism doesn't exist in Venezuela. It actually doesn't. Classism, it exists. That people are on the top, on the down, whatever. But the color doesn't matter. People, even though if you call them as their color as they are, they don't get offended. They actually like it. It's very different how race here is such an important thing, and it can actually be into punishment and crimes. And in Venezuela, that doesn't exist at all. That is actually more like people are not caring in Venezuela about what color of skin you are. They just care of who you are. And for me, it was very different and very shocking when I was writing this essay, and when I was like reading about it in the U.S. and how it is. It's very, very, very weird for me to see all of this detail, but it's very interesting to see the right and wrong of both cases. And yeah, that's my paper. Thank you so much for listening to me.